So previously I've made videos in which I try to visualize the fourth dimension. Some mathematicians think it's impossible to visualize it, but that's what I was trying to do. I record my progress in trying to do that. And one of the suspicions that I had was that maybe we are already navigating through higher dimensions. Maybe we already live in higher dimensions, but because we're so focused in the physical form, because we're so attached and we function and we think in these three dimensions, we don't realize that we're already navigating through higher dimensions. One example of this is time. We move through time. We exist in three dimensions, but we also move through time. And time, as you know, is considered to be a higher dimension. So the fact that we're moving through time already means that we're moving through a fourth dimension. We're moving through a higher dimension. But we don't usually think of ourselves as four-dimensional beings. So maybe there are other ways in which we already exist in higher dimensions, but we just don't recognize it, or we don't acknowledge it. So without getting into too much of the details about it, some of the things that I learned in this journey that I took and trying to visualize the fourth dimension is that when you navigate through the fourth dimension, the way that it manifests, the way that you see it is that you'll see yourself staying in one place in the physical world. You won't be moving in these three dimensions. But as you look at the world around you, it seems like everything is changing. So your body stays in the same place, but everything around you changes. And that's just one of the ways in which navigating in the fourth dimension, that's one of the ways in which it manifests.
Now don't let this explanation sound too mysterious to you, because like I said, this navigation is indeed an everyday experience. So, navigation through the fourth dimension manifests as you staying in the same spot in three dimensions, but everything around you changes. What does this mean? Let's say you are standing in one spot in the physical world. You do not move up or down, left or right, forward or back. But you move in a direction you can't point to or even see. Now because you can't see this fourth dimension, this fourth direction, you will not be able to see this movement as a movement in any of the three dimensions that you see around you. So in the physical world, it seems like you are standing still. That's what it looks like in the physical world. But because you are moving into the fourth dimension, you will be able to see the effects of that motion. The effects of that motion is the changes that you see in the physical world. It sounds amazing, right? Well, it's really not. If you are sitting still watching this video, see if you can spot any changes in the world around you. The blowing of the air, the people walking outside maybe, even your own heartbeat and your own blood running through your body, even the motion of the molecules and the aging of the materials around you, the aging of the walls that you're staring at. These are all indicators that you are moving through a fourth dimensional direction. The movement through time is the movement through a fourth spatial dimension.
Another thing that I learned is that when you are trying to look into the fourth dimension, that other space can sometimes function, can sometimes seem as kind of like an interface of your navigation into higher dimensions. So it works kind of like an interface. And in this interface, you are able to gauge in which direction you're moving and how fast or how much you're moving in that direction.
Let me try and explain things a little bit more plainly. Considering what I said before about how fourth dimensional motion manifests as change, I want you to think about all the changes that can take place in your life that do not involve you changing your position in the physical world. For example, a movement from sadness to happiness is a movement in the emotional direction. Making plans for tomorrow is a movement in the preparedness direction. Making a sale or striking a deal is a movement in the financial direction. Forgiving a friend, or an enemy for that matter, is a movement in the spiritual direction. In this sense, when you look into the fourth dimension, you are practically visualizing not anything that exists in the physical world, and yet you are looking into it to try and move in that direction. This visualization, this vision, is the interface, and when you move into that direction, it becomes real.
any aspect of life can be visualized as another dimension. And depending on the aspect of life that you want to pay attention to, that you want to analyze, that you want to take into account in your experience, you're going to add another dimension to your existence to incorporate that aspect of life.
Let me try and solidify this image. Graphs are often used to describe a relationship between different aspects of life. Let's say you are trying to see the correlation between the amount of money you have and the amount of moochers in your life. Normally this would take two axes to portray this, X and Y. Each axis introducing one dimension in the graph, one depicting the amount of money you have and the other depicting the amount of moochers in your life. For the sake of the example, we will simply say that the correlation is positive. Here we have a two-dimensional representation of the relationship. But there exist other dimensions that are not being taken into account, and that is the time that is involved in making the money and the time that it takes for people to notice that you have money and become a moocher. So we could add an axis to represent time in the graph, adding another dimension to the relationship and making this a three-dimensional graph. Of course, along with this, we could add three more axes to represent a map of the physical world so that we can track where to go to make the money and where a person spends their money so that people notice and thus gather moochers. But usually for navigation, we disregard the third dimension when we look at flat maps. The two dimensions are usually enough to tell the location of something because everything in our world is laid out on the ground. So now we have a graph with 5 dimensions. And honestly, let's say that we are not even trying to take into account the place and time. We're just trying to get a general idea of the pattern. So we reduce the graph to 2 axes, that is 2 dimensions. And we reduce it to 2 dimensions not because those other dimensions do not exist, but because for simplicity, we decide to disregard them. Because we want to focus on just 2 things, namely the amount of money one has and the amount of moochers that gathers around them. My proposition is that whatever aspect of life we try to quantify, we open up a dimension for it in order to analyze it in a quantifiable manner. This is not just something that we do in graphs, but what we put on the graphs represent things that we actually experience in real life. These aspects are real. They have real directions, and the directions are as real as the direction of time and as ostensible as the directions of space.
There are so many aspects to life, but you only observe a few at a time. And depending on what aspects of life you want to focus on, you will observe, you will experience, you will analyze those aspects of life, and you will add those aspects of life to your equation of what you're trying to see, what you're trying to observe, what you're trying to analyze.
There are so many aspects to life. It's unreasonable to expect anyone to take all of them into account. As you are watching this video, you may not be thinking about your family, the bills that you have to pay, current events going on around the world, the state of your health and fitness, your future in education, or plans you have for possible future tragedies. You cannot consider all of these in any one moment, let alone every other aspect that I failed to mention. Human life entails all of these dimensions. As humans, these dimensions are part of us. And even though we do not have the bandwidth to consider them all, you can always pick a few aspects that you consider important and incorporate them into your analysis and experience. And these will be the dimensions that are integrated into your equation as you prioritize your values and lay out your plans for the future. Also, I just want to clarify that with all of this, I am not trying to say that parallel universes don't exist, or that there's no such thing as hyperdimensional stalkers or demons. Just the opposite. We need to rethink the details of these phenomena. Only then will we discover the real nature and prevalence of them.
So the reason why I'm talking about this is because all this will be relevant when I talk about dreams, the dream world, when I start talking about abstract concepts like freedom, like emotions, things that are intangible like inspiration. When I talk about things, all these aspects of life that are very much real, even though they're not physical, even though they're not within the 3 dimensions that we typically think about.